This episode is brought to you by Atlas VPN. More about that at the first break. Hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints. My name is Connor, and today we're going to be reviewing episode 1 of Hammer and Bolter, Death's Hand. I am a science fiction, political, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and we are going to be following a new format for these breakdowns because Games Workshop did politely ask us to alter our format. So what we're going to do is we're going to be watching the key dialogue and action scenes. I'll be breaking down the maybe less quick dialogue scenes with some stills and some artwork, and I'll be only interrupting during this portion of the plot summary with a little bit of lore breakdown. I won't be going into vast lore breakdowns. But then after that, if you want to stick around and get a little bit more information as far as what we actually saw on the screen, then please feel free to stick around. That way I can give you a little bit more lore knowledge than you might otherwise get. So I appreciate you coming along for the ride. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Death. Sundering. The Emperor's light is the only light, that which he illuminates, the only path. The harbinger and the fool.
Which is it, reader? Which am I?
Either. Both.
Turn the last card.
The faceless void, an ignominious end. Death is coming. Even now he waits at your door. Measure your next steps with care, Inquisitor.
My thanks, Gaius Andor. You have served the Emperor as we all must. This cruel universe will not remember your name, but trust that I shall.
What did he see, Lord?
The same as the others. Burn it! Burn everything!
All right, so what did we just see? Well, so death, sundering. Sundering means to be split apart, basically meaning that the only thing that this guy is seeing in the tarot are negative things. This is an astropath who is a sensitive psyker who is in the service of the Imperium of Man. He says the Emperor's light is the only light, he illuminates the only path. In this universe, the world is snuck into by hell. There's a different plane of existence. The emotions of living creatures fuel the dark gods and the gods of this other plane of existence. As a result, basically what ends up happening is these gods become more powerful, less powerful, etc., etc. And there are certain human beings who can see through to this other plane, and as a result, divine little elements of the future, or they're able to communicate over vast distances with other psychically sensitive people. And these people are kidnapped, brought to the Adeptus Astronomica on Holy Earth. The weak ones, too powerful ones, and undisciplined ones are sacrificed in order to keep the God Emperor of Mankind alive with his psychic beacon that keeps the Imperium of Man capable of doing interstellar travel. And then the more disciplined ones become astropaths, and as a result are, prophets and telecommunicators within the Imperium of Man. So this very clearly, from what we've seen already, the interrogator is trying to get a divination. He's trying to get a revelation about his own fate, and so far, it seems like nobody's had any good news for him on that front. So in am I the harbinger or the fool? Well, there's an ignominious end. Ignominious means deserving of public shame, meaning that he's implying that the interrogator is basically going to butcher his own death, and it waits for you now even at your own door. Measure your next steps carefully, Inquisitor. Thanks, Gaius Andor. This cruel universe won't remember your name, but trust that I shall. And then, this psyker isn't able to see his own death, and as a result, catches a bolt shell to the head. So, the Inquisitor burns it, and we see the sigil of the astropath on fire. We see the scrolls on fire. We see the catacombs on fire. And so this is to show that an Inquisitor is invested with incredible political power, but he is literally butchering valued members of the Imperium to serve his own fatalistic self-interest. And that flows into the next scene. Will there be any astropaths left? The female compatriot asks. And what's actually interesting is, based off of her demeanor and kind of her armor and the way that she talks, I'm presuming that she's a former sister. Now, that could be wrong because she's putting up with a decent level of heresy. But within the sister lore, I won't get into it too much, but sisters are so devout that they tend to be hyper loyal and follow, let's just say even in their original canon, they're known for following the wrong person for the right reasons. So they have this argument back and forth between these two characters where she insists not all futures can be divined. You cannot see every path to conclusion. And the Inquisitor rebuts, well, the Eldari believe so, and maybe we should seek them out. The ex-sister, who's a part of this Inquisitor's retinue, rebuts, basically, do you think that they would really help us? And the interrogator says, we have an enemy in common. The reason why this is interesting is because Eldari and humanity have worked together in the past, but generally speaking, it does end in bloodshed because Eldari manipulate humanity for their own ends, and humanity understands this and as a result still has a xenocidal opinion of the Eldari, where, the only good Eldar is a dead Eldar, with very rare exception. So, they continue this conversation as they move on, but another Inquisitor has arrived in order to escort our main character, Keo Moro, to Terra for his investiture ceremony. Doing research for this episode, investiture is basically promotion. It's a promotional ceremony, and within the inquisitorial ranks, there's only a few ranks. There's like Acolyte, Interrogator, Inquisitor, and Inquisitor Lord. And interrogators and acolytes are understudies of an Inquisitor, and an Inquisitor is allowed to recruit. Think of them as like a combination of an FBI, CIA agent, a NSA agent, and the medieval Inquisition. That's what they are. And with that very high level of power, they're allowed to recruit any number of Imperial forces to their retinue in order to achieve their goals as they investigate and prosecute crimes against the Imperium of Man. So, the investiture is very likely, since he's already being referred to as an Inquisitor, is moving him to an Inquisitor Lord, meaning that not only will he be responsible for himself, but if there's ever a dispute between Inquisitors, because they're all viewed as a pseudo-equal rank, as a Lord Inquisitor, he would be able to break decisions and also direct other Inquisitors as his social clout and his title would invest him in. So, the female mentions that Keo Moro asks, is he alone? And no, he has a retinue of 4. I'll need my effects. Are you expecting trouble? Wake Turk and reset his kill count. And so this is where we're basically seeing that, how do I phrase this? This Inquisitor knows that what he's doing is wrong on a certain level, but he has his own reasons for it. And he fears, because of what the astropaths have been telling him, he fears judgment. And so, I will look over here, get it edited, and we'll go ahead and pick up with the violence.
Greetings and welcome! It is good to see you, my old friend.
Old friend? It feels like yesterday we were wasting our evenings with Amasek and dice.
It was a century ago.
And now, you stand on the precipice of greatness, investiture, on terror, no less. Bureaucracy comes for us all in the end.
You shouldn't have come.
You knew that someone would, eventually.
And the investiture? Is this just the cover you needed to board my vessel?
It's as real as anything else. But what difference does it make?
You know, then.
About your obsession with the tarot? About the Eldari? Yes, I know.
We almost died at Antioth, Arturo. The arch-enemy knew our every move. We handed them 100 worlds. Billions died. Even with your limited psychic ability, tell me you cannot still hear their screams.
There was nothing more we could have done.
But what if we could have? What if we knew?
We are not gods. We have only the certainty of the moment. Only the Emperor can divine the future.
And yet, he has given us the foresight to wield such tools as might.
We cannot stack the deck, Kiyomoro. We must play the hand we are dealt.
Very well.
No! Damn you, Kiyomoro! You invite ruin!
You've come to see it done!
Someone must stand in your way!
Must it be you?
Who else?
I wish you'd understood.
All right. Things are about to go haywire, but I basically, in order to avoid copyright strike, we have to break down at least a little bit what we've already seen. So the Battle of the Retinues, I thought, was a very awesome opportunity to show a variety of skills. And my frustration with the series is, of course, that they didn't animate it as well as they could. But going back and watching this in detail, frame by frame, is actually really fun. You get to see a lot more details than they are. So they at first seem friendly, talking about Amasek and dice. Amasek is this universe's version of wine, but it's made from a variety of grains, and it's supposed to be stronger like a port. And this Arturo, this fellow Inquisitor who confronts Kiyomoro on his obsession with the tarot and the Eldari, the reason why obsession with the warp in particular, with psychers in particular, can be so bad is because through obsession, it's like, be careful when you stare into the abyss, because the abyss also stares back into you. That is the problem with this. And while Inquisitor is invested with incredibly... he has a lot of latitude with his actions, there is a lot of potential for corruption, and as a result, Inquisitors themselves are only the most trusted, loyal, strong, intelligent, disciplined members of the Imperium, but through their ventures, oftentimes they have a very negative reputation because they do treat other Imperial forces as expendable, and also they are liable for corruption just through the nature of their work. So Antioth, I wanted to bring this up as well. Antioth is the holy world that's brought up in a different Sisters of Battle Hammer and Bolter episode, and that was an interesting connection that I didn't realize the first time. And in the real world, there's a Hellenic city, meaning a Greek colonial city in Turkey that was called Antioch, that later became a Crusader kingdom during the Crusades of the Middle Ages. And as a result, whenever you hear Antioch, anything like that, you're basically being told to know that this is a holy and sacred world. And we are not gods. We only have the certainty of the moment. Kiyomoro is trying to say, we lost billions of human beings. What if we harnessed foresight through psychers in order to do this, or in order to prevent billions of deaths? And he's haunted by his own work, which gives him a semi-justifiable thing. But Arturo objects, saying, like, we only have the certainty of the moment. The reason why this is so interesting is because you see the priest step forward. The reason why the priest step forward is because this is heresy. Psychic power is supposed to be used in very prescribed and controlled environments because of how volatile and dangerous it is. And the people who become corrupt and turn against the Imperium of Man and who are the most dangerous are often corrupted through either Xenos, meaning interactions with aliens, or interactions with chaotic forces or warp creatures. So even to suggest this thing is heresy, which is why the ecclesiarchal priest steps forward and as a result is the first one to die. And this was an interesting thing that I found while I was doing research, is that the balance of opinions between inquisitors actually involves clout. So while Kiyomoro could have his opinion and Arturo could have his opinion, and normally they could sit down and have this conversation, what Kiyomoro has done is so heretical, and by opening with violence, he's basically damned himself, damned his retinue, and also, damned the other retinue because, they're basically getting bushwhacked over this. So, the Kiyomoro kills the ecclesiarchal member, the sister and the Arbitus exchange shots. Damn you, Kiyomoro. They do have their duel, which I thought was interesting because when I was rewatching it again, I saw more detail. If you actually go back frame by frame, there's little blue slashes that go across Kiyomoro's armor. And while it's a little corny or whatever, I did appreciate that the Arturo was getting more sword slashes in than I had originally understood because of the way that they animated this, which is frustrating. Also, Kiyomoro has a kick-ass, big-ass power sword. If you go back through the stills, it actually looks great. And the Ranger, who is an Eldari, which actually shows that, there are Eldari who are part of inquisitorial retinues, but it's almost like a black mark to have an alien on your team, so it's only reserved for the most fanatical of inquisitors who don't mind the dirty looks that they're going to get. And considering Kiyomoro's obsession with the tarot and psychic power and all that kind of stuff, it's just going to be another condemnation against him that he has an alien on his team. But the the Ranger takes a pot shot at the Munitorum clerk, and this is our first hint that the Munitorum clerk is not what she seems. So, let's go ahead and see as the violence continues.
It seems you're not the face of death today. Turk, now!
What shall I do with her?
Take her to the cell.
Yes. Love me some good violence. Of course, I do wish the animation quality was up, but, whatever. So, I wish you'd understood, Kiyomoro says as he stands over Arturo and then stomps in his chest. That was actually, like, a really sad moment for me. I get that Kiyomoro is a man of will and that Arturo knew what he was doing when he was boarding the ship. But one of the cool things about the Warhammer 40,000 universe is that you can... Every character on the screen, obviously this isn't totally true, but every character on the screen could be their own main character. The amount of detail that goes into it, the amount of like pre-narrative and post-narrative and all that kind of stuff. And there's so many books like this, like Gaunt's Ghost and the Dan Abnett series in particular. Dan Abnett, he's the best Warhammer 40k author in my opinion, and just an excellent author in general. He will give you these insights into every character and then kill them off, but then you fall in love with characters and then they get killed, so it's all the more emotionally shocking and damaging. But the clerk shrieks as she dodges a grenade round from the gunslinger, and it's revealed that she's an assassin. Even Arturo is shocked by this and doesn't know that he had an assassin in his retinue before he catches a gauntleted, maybe not gauntlet, but a steel-toed, power-armored, beheading kick that likely either takes off his head or crushes in his chest and kills him. So the clerk shapeshifts, and she's a Calidus assassin. Calidus assassins are armed with phase blades. Phase blades are capable of cutting through anything, including invulnerable saves. And as a result, she is a lethal threat, is capable of shapeshifting, which is how she got in the room in the first place, and then also is obviously quite the gymnastic, ninja-style athlete as well. And, she dodges both a bolt round and a las round as she closes the distance, and then cuts right through the Eldari Ranger, literally bisecting him to the point that you can see like the spine and the vital organs and the bisected sword and all that kind of stuff. So I really wish they had invested in a few more frames, because good God, would I have loved to have seen this in its full glory. Equally, the gunslinger is taken out, and as a result, it seems like Kiyomoro is on the back foot, at least for a second. But Turk, who was mentioned previously as like resetting his kill counter, he is, I don't even know what he is. He looks like a biomechanical cyborg mutant who apparently his only programming is to kill. So he follows a certain amount of directives from his inquisitorial retinue, and he easily dispatches the Arbitus member, literally just backhanding her, like taking a shotgun round to the arm and then backhanding her and exploding her body. And then the catechin is equally easily dispatched, which sucks. I'm not going to lie, like, I wanted more out of the Arbitus. I wanted more out of the catechin, because these are all very lethal creatures in and of themselves, and I'll go over that when we get to the breakdown portion of the episode. But, they're just as easily dispatched. And when the assassin chops off Kiyomoro's bolter, but then has to contend with Turk, she loses her Xenopho's phase blade, which is impressive that Turk was able to take that out. But then, as a result, he has a bomb strapped within himself, and this is to show you that the Inquisition views everyone as disposable, especially their retinue. Everyone is a pawn to be played in the great game against the forces of chaos and the Xenos of this universe. So, pretty great, and we see the tarot cards before we move into the next scene, and for the next scene, I will be, narrating rather than watching it. Of course, you're free to go subscribe to Warhammer TV. You're free to get a VPN if you're in a non-service country, and you're free to basically take that on and go watch this without me, so you don't have to check out the breakdown. This episode is brought to you by Atlas VPN, and for the people who are outside of the countries in which Warhammer TV is available, they can absolutely help you out. So, Games Workshop obviously sent us a little bit of a letter asking us to reformat our content, and some people were disappointed with that because they were really enjoying our commentary and our breakdowns, but they requested, how do I see this? I'm not even in a country that can do it. Atlas VPN can help. What they are is a service with a very aggressive discount right now. And if you choose to go with them monthly for around $10 a month, if you choose to go with them for a year for around $5 a month, if you prepay, or if you go for 3 years, which is their most aggressive deal right now, you can basically get their services for approximately $3 a month. And what this service does that enables you to watch Warhammer TV is change your geolocate service. You can shift your IP address from wherever you are in the world right now to a host country, and as a result, gain access to subscription services that you otherwise would not have. Also, it protects your data from the spying of corporations and the government. Who wants to get spied on these days? Also, if you're worried about doxing, worried about your personal security, worried about your personal information, then what you can, using this information, if you're logging into a software program like Discord, if you're logging into a software program like StreamYard, I'm a YouTuber, I'm a streamer, I like to do debates, I don't want everybody to have my IP address and therefore my real address. Use an IP, use Atlas VPN, and your location will be hidden through the VPN service. Finally, it will allow you to fight price discrimination. Price discrimination, basically different corporations, whether they're airlines or subscription services, they will charge you different rates depending on where you are in the globe. You can use this in order to get the best rates possible so you can gain access to these services, but get significantly reduced rates and as a result pay yourself for getting Atlas VPN. So please consider supporting our sponsor. Help us by helping the people that help us. I appreciate you. Let's keep it moving. So, Kiyomoro is obviously curious because he's been dealing with the Tarot and basically dealing with all these people who are trying to kill him, and as a result, he's been throwing his own weight behind this single-mindedly, and rather than just executing the Calidus assassin, which is obviously the thing to do in order to protect yourself, takes her to the cell instead. And the Calidus concedes that he is a famed interrogator, meaning that he is, not only was he that rank previously, but also he's known for his brutal capacity to obtain information from other people, and Kiyomoro reinforces this reputation. The assassin's not to be trifled with, though, literally going so far as to demonstrate that she is capable of healing herself, capable of injuring herself, and basically stabs her own hand in order to show that she will be able to withstand whatever Kiyomoro throws at her. Additionally, the reason why she can't escape is because she's in what's called cellular inhibitors. They basically prevent her from shifting as a result of not being able to shift. Whenever she tries to escape the gauntlets shock her, basically keeping her in position to the point that she can't do it. Well, who sent you here to kill me? I'm not here to kill you, Kiyomoro, she muses, which gets even more like curiosity out of the Inquisitor, and he says, this tells a different story, dropping a poisoned blade in front of her. So this tete-a-tete between the two characters results in the assassin asking for the tarot cards. That way she can basically answer his questions, not acknowledging that she is about to be tortured to death. So, since Kiyomoro can't help himself, the assassin plays the cards out, similar to the astropath, but also tells a story. And the story indicates that there are things more horrible than the Inquisitor himself, to which he scoffs, because he has, for 200 years, faced heretics, aliens, and demons. But has he ever faced a child, the assassin asks, orphaned by war? In the following show, which actually is unfortunately more showy than anybody would really want, and the art is fantastic, which makes it even more crappy that it's just like stills. You can see Kiyomoro fighting in the background, but there's a child who's obviously been orphaned with his father dead in the background. So the child uses a las rifle to hunt rats and even kills a man who is scavenging and tries to kill him. So death is this child's only companion. the assassin continues to muse. He's plucked from his world and taken by harsher masters than that of the Schola Progenium. The Schola Progenium is the place where the orphans of imperial notables go to in order to get trained to become the next generation of warriors and leaders of the Imperium of Man. Whereas this young boy ends up with the Officio Assassinorum. So it shows the assassin initiates going through a series of blood sports and physical augmentation and deadly obstacle courses, resulting with this young boy, now a man, being the only one who's left, but also having his humanity obliterated away from himself. As a result, he does have, forced alterations, forced psycho-conditioning, to the point that when asked to execute a bunch of innocents, he does so without question. He is then given a holy weapon, and we'll take it from there.
Avoid death, but it's You've spent your life trying to avoid death, but its child is here now.
You are a lethal thing. That fact I do not deny. But you, like all the rest, have failed.
Have I? Then where is your armor? As I said, Inquisitor, I did not come here to kill you. For all that you see and have seen, you are blind to an obvious truth. That here, where you seem most in control, you are also at your most vulnerable. My mission was simple: to bring you here. To have you sit there across from me, the famed interrogator, in the chair of his office. Lure. Witness. I came to play both roles, and I did not need to parse the skeins of fate to do it. You should have paid more attention to the tarot readers you burned like sump trash. Hubris is the weapon the fool uses to cut his own throat.
And don't worry, we will finish out the last little bit of the episode. But you spent your entire life trying to avoid death, but death's child is here now. You are a lethal thing, the fact that I don't deny. Well, she already knows the game plan. There's a Vindicare assassin who's in a suit that's capable of protecting him from the Void on the other Inquisitor ship, and as a result, they've already approached an angle through which they can see the window in the interrogator's cell. This is the kind of, it is a little elaborate, it is a little Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13, but at the same time, maybe it's possible that they would have had the schematics from the ships because they are Inquisitors after all. Maybe they need to get him out of his armor, that way a Rosarius can't protect him. I think not a Xenophase. I think a Phase Blade would have done the same work, but there is a little bit of a twist in a moment that I think is kind of fun. One of the quotes that I really like, though, is you're blind to the obvious truth that here where you're most powerful, you're most vulnerable. And earlier she was talking about how it's not it's not the many that fall empires. It's the cracks in the wall. It's the smaller things that bring down the big things. And so I'm a lure and I'm a witness. I came to play both, and I did not have to mess with fate in order to do it. Vengeance is played, and what's going on is, while this Vindicator has become the sniper assassin, while he's become a raw instrument of the Imperium of Man, he also gets to kill the Inquisitor who led a zealous war on his homeworld that resulted in his parents' death and his path down this brutal life. So, the vengeance of the Vindicator is for his own motivation, despite ultimately being just a tool used in the great game. So the Vindicator is so talented that he puts 2 rounds through the same hole in the 3-inch thick glass window, able to kill Kiyomoro and also able to free the assassin. One of the cool things about this that I was thinking previously is I thought it was a little silly for him to be in the void in order to do this. I was like, why couldn't the Calidus just kill him? That will be kind of answered in a moment, but also one of the things that I was like, how did he shoot the shackle without hitting her? She's a Calidus. She can heal herself. It doesn't matter if the bullet goes through her hand, so not too bad. And they also showed that earlier where she stabbed and split and healed herself as a part of her shape-shifting ability. She can also heal herself. So Kiyomoro is the fool, because through constantly trying to track down his own fate, by constantly obsessing over his own life and death, what ended up happening was he pissed off so many people that he was a worthy target for another Inquisitor and the Officio Assassinorum. So now he's been taken out. So finally, let's watch why Kiyomoro was not only killed for his own hubris, but also why he wasn't killed by the Calidus originally.
Did you get what you wanted?
Yes.
Good. Your investiture awaits.
Well then, let us go and change the future.
So I'm actually really enjoying rewatching the series, because basically what it does is it allows me to kind of notice things that I would have noticed before, or have some confusion on, and kind of like think in my own head, like, why did that work out the way that it worked? So having the Calidus instantaneously kill Kiyomoro within his own ship, I think that they could have just killed everybody within their own ship, had the Calidus copy Kiyomoro, and they would have been able to achieve the same result, but it's a little bit more poetic with the Vindicator assassin who's able to show off his skill set in order to accomplish the goal. So still Oceans 12, Oceans 13, but then with the Kiyomoro killed in private, his corpse burned within his own interrogation room, and him still retaining some level of his retinue who can basically vouch for who he is as a person, the Calidus, who's pretending to be Kiyomoro, can now gain access to even more powerful rooms. There's no room within the Imperium that a Inquisitor can't gain access to. Of course, an assassin can just as easily gain access to it, but who's to say that there's not a even more important target on Holy Terra that this Calidus is being sent after? You know, I mean, just a little headcanon for me of why the Oceans 12, Oceans 13 thing was, necessary. And by that, I just mean like an elaborate heist. But for that, if you just wanted to break down the action scenes, a little bit of commentary, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you didn't, for whatever reason, you didn't want to watch it on Games Workshop. Maybe you wanted a little bit of detail to go along with it. Maybe you're boycotting them. Maybe you're in a non-access country and you don't have the ability to access a VPN right now. I hope that was a quick enough mix of violence and summary where you feel like you got your bang for your buck, and it should be sufficiently transformative that Games Workshop should leave us alone. But now, in order to transform it further, I'm going to try to briefly go through some of the details that I find interesting from a lore perspective. The original episode was opened with the Dictatus Vindicator, and the dictates of the Vindicator. Dictates are orders, and the order, and then the way to conduct yourself, and then Vindicare means is very close to vindicate, which means justified in action, which is obviously shown here because this assassin is seeking personal vengeance while still doing his job. The Sigil of the Astropathic Guild, one of the interesting things about learning and Googling these things was the fact that the Astropathic Guild, in order to become an astropath, you actually have to do a soul binding ritual with the Emperor of Man himself. That way you can stay pure as a psyker. Psykers are prone to corruption, and they're prone to being possessed by, demons and Xenos creatures and this, that, the other. So as a result, by binding themselves with the Emperor, it's supposed to be a very painful process, but they gain a bit of his pure psychic power and binding, which makes them more difficult to possess and more difficult to corrupt. Meeting the retinues, the ecclesiarchal priest, he's literally a part of the church, and as a result, he would be the most offended by Kiyomoro's heresy, which is why he stepped forward and took a bolt round first. The adept of the Munistorum, who was obviously the Calidus assassin, she's not necessarily necessarily a violent member. So the priest and the clerk are not necessarily violent members, so there could be this feint of, we're not here to screw you over, Kiyomoro. I brought two people who aren't necessarily fighters, although ecclesiarchal priests do fight all the time. And on Arturo's retinue, the Catechan jungle fighter, he was born on a planet with apex predators that make Australia, look weak. The Arbitas member is a Judge Dredd federal law enforcement officer, and as a result, having the hitters could send the opposite message of, if there's trouble, we can handle ourselves. So on the other side, there's the Ganger. He's a hitter, obviously. The Tempestus Scion. Scion means sun, and Tempestus means storm. So literally a son of the storm. He's a Special Forces shock trooper who's armed with a very powerful weapon. And then he has what I believe to be a former Sister of Battle in the Eldar Ranger. So all of these very cool characters are awesome in and of themselves and could take their own little details. And that's why I get a little bit frustrated with the rushed nature of the animation, is because if you allow these things to breathe, you wouldn't be like, hey, look at this cool thing, 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 from almost a PowerPoint presentation. You could actually let it breathe and enjoy it. That's really all I had to say. Oh, hold on. There was also some really cool stuff that I noticed back in the assassin montage, was that there was kind of like a kill team vibe and a training vibe to this art that I'm showing on the screen right now. And it just it was fun to think about. The Officio Assassinorum, there's a book series called The Last Chancers. It's where penal legions, basically criminals, are sent on suicide missions in order to prove their mettle and to be boiled down into a coherent special forces team that is then in turn sent on a suicidal special ops mission. And I thought that was a really cool thing implied by this art, where maybe the way the Officio Assassinorum gained some of its recruits wasn't just through hardcore training and the execution of innocents, but also by sending them on difficult missions in order to cull the weak and unlucky. So I really did enjoy that. And then finally, the ultimate irony, I think this is something that we face ourselves as individuals, is egoism versus fatalism. So egoism being looking at moral philosophy from the perspective that our self-interest and the self-interest of others are what motivates everybody, and as a result, we can use our own self-interest in order to achieve positive ends for ourselves and for others, and being very realistic about that. And while it's not stated, I do think Kiyomoro falls into this philosophical venture where he views his own importance and his own contributions to the Imperium as the only thing that really matters. And since he does know that he's basically biologically immortal, then all he needs to do is to be one step ahead of the dark forces that face him, and he can literally fight the Imperium's battles forever. But through that self-obsession, he becomes corrupted and ultimately kills himself through his hubris. Whereas, Arturo, while he does die, I would say philosophically he's more of a fatalist, meaning that he believes that what is going to happen is going to happen, and we can play our roles within this great game of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, but ultimately it's not our job or our role or even possible to manipulate the fates always within our favor. And that was what I think is the thematic core of the piece that I deeply, deeply enjoyed. So, if you did enjoy this, obviously, please go support our sponsor, Atlas VPN. You can also support me at patreon.com/counterpoints. You can also go to counterpoints.gg in order to figure out what we're all about. We are live streaming and doing political debates. Again, I identify as a centrist or center-right person, and I am going up against predominantly far-right people at this point. So, if you did enjoy this piece, I invite you to like, share, subscribe, dislike, all that YouTube nonsense. Please support us financially if you can. Subscribe, ring the bell, all that baloney. I want to hit 100,000 subscribers by 2024, and I want to have an engaged, active, and fun community that enjoys science fiction and violence, but also enjoys good-spirited and heartfelt debate and wants to make the world a better place. So if you feel like you can help us in that project, please do whatever you can in order to assist us. I appreciate you, and I'll catch you in the next one.